Welcome back, everybody. Another one of my time-lapse model build videos. This video we're going to be seeing the build of my Monogram Pro Modeler F15E Strike Eagle. This one will be built completely out of the box. There is no aftermarket whatsoever. The decals, everything came out of the box. Surprisingly, it went really well. I was a little worried about the quality of the kit being Monogram. They're not usually known for high quality kits, but the Pro Modeler line, they definitely stepped up their game. Kit turned out really well. I'm very happy with how it looked, how it looks. If you want to see that, stick around to the end. And on that note, let's get into this video. So my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. And just before we get into the video, something I should have been doing a lot more up till now, and that is just asking you guys out there, if you enjoy what you're looking at, if you like what I'm doing, go down below, click on the like page, subscribe to my channel, and by all means, please click on that little notification bell. If that way you guys get alerted when I do get more new content up. I usually try to do the What's on My Desk monthly update beginning of the month. And I usually try to get a video or a series of videos released by the 15th, the middle of the month. So whether that's going to be a tips and tricks video, or an aviation history video, or my time-lapse videos of the previous model builds that I've got done, or an air show video, or some of my new product review videos I'll be doing. So I'm going to try to get something posted by the middle of the month. So please, if you're enjoying this, subscribe, like, and click that notification bell. Let's move on to the video. And with most aviation models, I started the construction on this one with the cockpit. And as I did mention, if I haven't mentioned yet, I did build this aircraft out of the box, so there's no aftermarket parts. So the cockpit was relatively easy, just some simple construction, some basic paint, and then a bit of dry brushing to make those details pop. And then the seats, I didn't do the seats right off the bat. I don't need to install them until later, so I actually completed the seats much later in the build, which you will see a little later. here we are, a bit of a mid-build update on the F-15. I have quite a bit of progress, I should say quite a bit of progress. As you've seen, I've got the forward fuselage basically done. So that's more or less finished, ready to go. I've got the cockpit cleaned up and weathered. I haven't done much with this forward coaming yet. I still have to clean that up. Yeah, you know what, I'm happy with that. Actually, no, let's zoom in a little bit. Right there. So I still have to do a little bit of work up here. I'm not going to do much until I get the actual fuselage glued together. I do have to install part of the HUD here and then clean all of this up and weather it all, flat dry brush. Same here along the side of the fuselage. These sides here I'll get dry brushed and cleaned up once I have everything put together. But you can see inside the cockpit, there's some nice detail picked out. I got the black wash all put in there, all cleaned up. It's all ready to go. This side doesn't like that. There, the wheel well, same thing. It's black washed. So I painted white, and then I gave it a black wash, and then I dry brushed with white to pick the corners out around it. I haven't done this part yet. I'll do that when I do the exterior. So there's not much left to do on this. It's pretty much ready to glue the fuselage halves together, and then I can clean up all of around the opening, and I'll deal with this later, but I can get these seams cleaned up, sanded down, get this piece in, get this all dry brushed, and get that done, and then I'll move on to the rear half of the fuselage. Yeah, I'm not going to install the seats until later. That way I can do all the masking, pull the canopy off, then I can drop the seats in and glue the canopy on. That just, for whatever reason, I like putting the seats in later. It allows me to get a bunch of other stuff done without having the seats in the way. Same with the forward landing gear. I'm not going to glue any of the wheels in place until later. I also have to give all of this interior a hit of flat coat. So I'll do that in a little bit. I'm not going to do it like right now. I'll probably do it after I have the nose assembled and cleaned up, and then I can just give it a hit. I'll probably weather this as well first, and then give it all a hit with flat coat. I find this Tamiya black wash, it's a really nice black wash. It's got a nice deep color, but it dries glossy, so everything needs a little bit of a flat coat hit to knock it all down. So that's where I am on this. So next step, I decided I'm going to glue this together, clean up all of these, weather and finish up around the cockpit here, weather this doorway down, clean it up, and then hit it all with a flat coat, and then move on to the rest. So, yep, happy with that, and as I said, stay tuned, and you'll see some more progress on my F-15. And here I am working with the intakes. I used the house paint method. It's the first time I've used this method. It basically involves blocking off the back end of the intake, filling the entire thing with white paint. In this case, I just used a white primer for house walls. Let it sit for a little bit, drain out the paint that's in the inside of the intake, and then it leaves a nice, clean, thick layer of white paint along the inside lining of the intakes. And I will be doing, I did film, as I did this, I filmed a tips and tricks video. So just keep your eye out on that. It should be coming out relatively quickly, probably within the next month or two. And there's going to be an in-depth look at how that is accomplished. So quick update here on the F15 before I go much farther with the build. So we've got the cockpit, as I'm sure if you've been actually watching them up till now, you would have seen that the cockpit is built, assembled, painted, glued together. The nose is glued together. I got the weathering done in the nose bay. I've been slowly poking away at little things. So I've got the two fuselage halves done, the upper and the lower half. I just finished cutting out the intake parts, so you'll see in a second why I've done that ahead of time. The intakes I've completed. I've done the latex white paint fill technique to fill the intake trunking, and then I painted the engine face steel, glued it all together. If you wanted to see a quick how-to on this, I do have a tips and trick video I've done up on this latex painting technique. Should be popping up on the top of the screen there in a little bit, a link to the video. You can click on that, watch the how-to and how this is done. Very happy with how it turned out. So the intake for the F15, the way it all fits together on this model, so I'll put this quickly together here for you now so you can see where everything stands. So the intake pieces just kind of clip into place. There's a little locating tab at the back right here, and it fits into a hole that sits on top of the wheel well, so that kind of gives it a location side to side. Then the front just butts up, but if you look, I'll zoom in here a bit so you guys can see, there's this little lip right here on the bottom half of the fuselage, if this will focus. So this little lip here is actually part of the intake itself, so up here on the side and down the bottom. The top part is made up of this plate here at the top. Let's get some of this otherwise so you can see. So anyways, this plate at the top is what makes the upper half of the intake, and then the lip here at the bottom, and then
down the trunking. Now, in order to try to make it clean up a little bit with this edge, because some of the latex paint did end up coming off on that edge, I've masked with a piece of sponge, just a dollar store. I got a whole pack of like 6 of these. You would have just seen me do this on this video. So if you haven't, go back about a minute or two, and you'll see me putting these sponges in. So it's just a dollar store sponge. Cut it roughly to shape, squeeze it in there, kind of tuck the edges so it's nice and square. And when I paint the exterior gray, it's going to leave a slight lip just on the inside of this intake here. In reality, it comes down a little farther down on the real plane. But I don't want to jam that sponge down too far. I'm afraid of not being able to get it out. So I'm just going just a little bit inside. And then with that lip on the bottom of the fuselage painted, when this fits into place, this little lip here of gray will blend and hopefully hide that seam, because I will not be able to clean up that seam once it's all together. So I'm hoping that'll kind of hide it. And then, again, if you were watching, you would have seen just a second ago, I kind of put all this together. But you'll see once this is assembled, see if I can hold everything together here. It's very difficult to get in there and paint all of those little corners. So what I'm going to do, let's zoom out here again. You probably didn't see a thing of what I just did. So when you get the intake all together, and it's a very complicated multi-piece intake. So I mean, I guess I can show you just with this. So this is what forms sort of the intake trunking is these pieces here. So you've got the top and the side, that piece, this piece kind of slides in through here, kind of like that. It's supposed to fit in like that. It's all, I mean, once you start gluing things, it'll fit a lot easier. This is just me holding it all together. But it all kind of goes together like that. And getting into all those little corners is not going to be easy once I have, the fuselage glued into place, trying to get all of those little edges. So what I'm going to do is paint these pieces now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to do any pre-weathering on this. I can touch that up later, but that allows me to, when I glue all of this together, right, this piece, these pieces here, I'll be able to put on after I do the final paint job. So all of this will be assembled. And then I can, you know what, I might even just touch up around. I might go ahead, when I paint this, I might paint a little bit of the side of the fuselage. That's going to be really tough, because I want to do a bit of weathering on this. I'm kind of like figuring this out on the fly as I go here now, because I do want to do a bit of weathering on the plane. And it's going to be very difficult to do all that weathering once I have everything assembled. So yeah, I think what I'm going to have to do is assemble the model. I want to paint. Wow. You know what I might even be able to do is just not do any pre-painting. I take back everything I just said. So now that I'm actually like looking at this as I'm filming this video, I realize it's going to be a lot easier to glue these intakes in place, leave them as is, assemble everything else, and then just paint these pieces loose, and at the very end of it all, just slide these in. And I think that's going to be the easiest way to do this, because it's going to be a lot of painting and I'm not going to be able to get the weathering effects that I'd like to have on this. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm literally just going to leave everything as is and start assembling it. I'm not going to pre-paint any parts. I'm just not going to glue these pieces on until after I've done the final painting on the entire airframe. So yeah. Well, this is kind of why it's nice to talk through things, because you start to see, like that, things that will work and things that won't work. So that's that. So the next step, I guess following the instructions, the next step is going to be gluing this fuselage all together and getting the nose section glued on. So that's going to be the next big step, getting the whole airframe put together and getting it ready for painting, basically, because this aircraft is very big and there's not a whole lot of filling and sanding and little things. So it's going to be a lot of just getting this main part put together, getting the wings glued on, masking the canopies and then starting the paint job, because the exhaust areas I'm going to paint after the fact. After I'm done the gray camo, I'm going to go ahead, mask off, and paint all of the exhausts. So I'm basically ready to start assembling this kit. It is a huge kit. I mean, you don't understand how big the F-15 is till you start comparing it to other airplanes. But anyways, so there you go. Mid update on this. So the next kind of steps you'll see is going to have all of this assembled. I got to flat coat the inside of the cockpit and whatnot. So plug away at this. Hopefully the next update you guys are going to see is going to be either just before I paint the gray or just after I paint the gray.
And here you can see now the aircraft has been painted. I didn't get any video of the process because my paint booth isn't set up for filming at the moment. So it does look like it kind of jumped here, but you will see it's painted. The aircraft is painted overall gunship gray, and that's basically it for the paint. The rest of the variation will be made up using some weathering techniques a little later on in the build.
So here we are, quick mid-build update on the F-15, and if you've been paying attention, you would have seen that the aircraft has been painted and glossed. There were a few issues I came across as I was glossing it, basically. I've noticed there were a few spots that needed a few touch-ups. I had some spots down around the wheel well, and some of the black wash had leaked and stained it. So I just finished with the Vallejo. Where are we here? No, that's not it. Here we go. Vallejo. I painted this with the Model Master Gunship Gray, and I used the Vallejo Gray just to go over and touch up some of the spots. And to be honest, the color is very, very similar. I can almost not even tell the difference. But I touched up some spots around the main gear, and I touched up some spots up here on the nose where I had a little bit of a lighter paint going on, where some more of the plastic was showing through. And then I just kind of gave it some random just to variate the color a little bit. I don't think much of it is going to be noticeable at the end because I did a good pre-shade and then misted on that gray. It already gave it a good color variation. And so I feel that what I just did with the Vallejo is blended to the point you're not even going to notice it. But you know what? It was worth doing anyway. So I did it. I had to touch it up anyways. I figured I'd give it a bit of variation. Try to give it just a little bit more of a color variance going on there. Other than that, it's basically ready for decals. There's a few minor things. Some of these bomb shackles along here need to be painted gray still. I haven't done them yet. I'll do them later. I can get at least the main airframe decaled. I can get the landing gear in place, and I can get the aircraft more or less flat coated. We'll see about those decals then, but at least I can get it more or less ready to go, and then I can shoot it with a layer of flat and seal everything in. So I mean, I can always get to those later. I'm not in a huge rush. There's no timeline on these right now. The one thing, if you haven't noticed it yet, the back of this plane has been left unpainted, and the main reason for that is there's whole sections in here, and a little bit along the side that's going to get painted in an Alclad. An Alclad, it's going to be titanium. I actually have to go buy titanium. But the problem is with the Alclad is I want the aircraft to be flat coated, but you can't flat coat the Alclad because it will lose its metallic luster. They have their own gloss and semi-gloss, but it's very hard to mask and paint that and then paint in a flat. So what I'm basically, long story short, I'm going to decal, weather, flat coat the entire airframe. Then I'm going to mask off and paint this. And that way, once I've painted this, nothing else will be done to it. It will be left in the bare Alclad finish. I might probably just leave it at that, to be honest. I don't have to handle it. I don't have to do anything. I can pick it up by the nose. I can pick it up by a wing. I can pick it up by the tail. I can pick it up in all these different ways without touching that Alclad finish. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. Weather, decal, weather, flat coat. Do as much as I can on the rest of it, and then paint this Alclad once I know I have no more work to do, and then I can just go along and attach a bunch of fiddly bits. The tails have also been gloss coated in preparation for decals. I have all of the other stuff done. The pylons, drop tanks, I haven't glossed any of these yet. I might not gloss any of them. Depending on what I need to do, I might just go straight to flat coat or not do anything. We'll see what kind of weathering I want to do on this. It's going to be a minimal weathering. I want it to look like the airframe has been used and weathered differently than, say, the drop tanks and different other, you know, the air brake will be hopefully a slightly different shade, just to, you know, I want to break it up a little bit. So that's kind of the plan. So we'll stay tuned with this, and you can see some decaling.
And here I am. I'm starting to build up the exhaust pedals, basically the burner cans. A very complicated build, lots of little parts that need to go together. And I was putting it to the end because I didn't want them hanging around and getting broken. So I'm basically going to get them assembled and get them painted as quickly as possible, and then they're finished and I can get them put out of the way.
Okay, so here we are. A quick update on the F15 status. As you've seen, I have all of the decals installed. All the gloss coat is done. It looks amazing. These decals, I was very worried. They did crack in a few places, especially these big long ones that cover the entire side. But I was able to fix up most of them, and they settled down very nicely with a hit of Solvaset. In some cases, you can still kind of see the outline of the decals, but you know, I'm not going to worry about it. There's not much I can do about that. Solvaset is the hottest decal setting solution there is, and it was still causing problems. So there's only so much I can do. It looks a little spotty because the second coat of Future is a lot shinier than the other side. But once I get weathering on that, which is the next step, like I said, I do have the black wash ready to go, so I can start working my way around, giving it the black wash, dirtying it up a little bit. That should hide some of it, and then a flat coat will just knock all of that down, and you will not even notice any of that once I get that done. A few minor things I had issues with. There's a section here, this panel here, these two gray panels that look different. I actually forgot to paint those. I left the gray line back here, didn't realize that these sections were gray as well. So some of these decals are a little farther forward on the fuselage than they need to be. These guys here should have been down here. And then there's a few, I'm not really going to tell you which ones because I don't want you to be able to see them, but there were a few of these stencils that I ended up putting in the wrong place. The instructions are very busy, and in my process of going through, I mixed up and put a few of the decals in the wrong place. They're close to where they belong, but some of the decals have been flipped, you know. 1 is in 2 and 2 is in 1, for example. Transposed a few of them around here. But it's nothing real major, and unless you really know what you're looking at, you'll never be able to tell which ones were which. I still have to do the titanium sections here, the top sections here, and there's a little bit in here. I'm going to do that at the very end, after the weathering, after the flat coat. When all of that is done, then I will mask and paint that titanium because I want that titanium to show. I want that metallic look. I'm going to use Alclad to do it, and there's no way to seal the Alclad really without affecting it. I don't want to mask everything off and paint the titanium and then have to mask the titanium to flat coat the rest of it. So I'm going to weather it, I'm going to flat coat it, I'm going to give it all of that, then I'm going to mask and paint the titanium, and as soon as I pull the masks off the titanium, then this will basically be finished and I can do final assembly. So that's that. Little things I did, the tails I haven't installed yet. The tails do fit quite nicely, so I'm not worried about that fit once I glue them on. They'll sit nice and tight. It's just easier to do the assembly with the tails off. But it is all set to go. Parts of the intake as well, and the wheels, everything is still in here. Drop tanks, pylons, gear doors, landing gear struts, the seats, all that stuff is still here. Still a bit of work I got to do to get the little fiddly bits finished up. Exhaust cans look amazing. That's Alclad stainless steel. Then I hit it with a little bit of exhaust manifold to give it a little bit of a dirty look, and they look absolutely stunning when it's assembled on the model. So with this area being titanium and then that exhaust, it's going to look really, really good. I'm very happy with that. So that's that. I have a bit of decaling left to do. Yeah, I don't want to break this. There we go. There's a little bit of decaling left to do on this one. A ton of little decals have to go all the way around them. I'll do those later. I'm not too worried right now. Poke away at things as I go. And the missiles and bombs, I just started assembling the AIM-9s. They got to be painted up. It's glossed and decaled, and then there's going to be 2 GBU-10s mounted on the main, the underwing struts, the under fuselage bomb places here. There'll be 4 GBU-10s. So those still have to be assembled and painted and whatnot. But again, I'm just kind of poking away at things and working across all 4 at a time. So that stuff will all be done in due time. But otherwise, coming along good. Very happy with that F-15. It is actually looking so much better than I thought it would. So very happy with that.
And here I've started the weathering process. The aircraft, as you can see here, an overall black wash base coat. And then from there I did some streaking with some black paint, kind of making it look like there's some dirt, some grime, some staining from some exhaust. And then I used Vallejo weathering effects, or some oil and some grime and dirt. And I used that just to make it look like there was some streaking and oil leaks from different spots around the airframe, vents and doors on the bottom, hinge lines, stuff like that around the control surfaces, just to give it a little bit of a variation in color. And here, as I've mentioned before, with the titanium areas around the rear fuselage, now that everything is completed with painting and weathering and decals and everything's sealed, I'm going to start, well, here I am. I'm currently masking for the titanium areas. A couple of little issues. I didn't get it perfect the way I wanted. I had to make it, variate a little bit just to make it work with the decal placement done already. But overall, I'm happy with it. The color didn't come out exactly as I'd like. I was a little too gold for my liking. But I mean, it is what it is. It's the only metallic titanium color I could find at the hobby shop, and with everything else going on with the pandemic and COVID, it's a little hard to get some of this material sent in. So I'm not the happiest with it, but it's better than nothing, and it's going to look good when it's done. And here, it might be a little hard to figure out what's going on, but I'm actually installing all of the bomb shackles, all of the the last parts that go on all of the weapon racks and bomb racks and everything. So I saved this for the very end because, again, they tend to break off really easily, and I didn't want to happen to snap them with my fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and glue in all of these little shackles for all of the hard points across the entire airframe. And then I'm using a Vallejo steel metalizer. I've never seen it before. I couldn't find any other steel paint because, again, the pandemic is making finding material hard. But they had this this metallic paint. I'm actually very happy with it. The color looks really good. And I think in the future I might actually try doing it. I think it's basically like a Alclad style paint where you can airbrush it over black and give it a real nice look. But brush painting it on, it looks amazing, and I'm very happy with it. I'm glad I have added this to my my collection of. And finally, here I am finishing off the seats. I had built and painted them earlier on in the build, but the final work, you know, the seat cushions, the straps, buckles, the weathering, all that stuff I didn't do until the very end. Like I said, I didn't need them prior to this, and now that it's one of the last things I'll do, I'll install the seats, and then I'll get the canopy glued on, and then the aircraft will be completed.
So here we are, end of the build of the F-15. It turned out looking really well. A little worried about how things would turn out with the weathering and whatnot, but overall very happy with this. Here is the final product. As always, there are a few little things I wished would have turned out looking a little bit better, a little bit different. The biggest one for me, really, that I'm not afraid to tell everybody, is just this titanium color. The gold titanium was not what I was expecting. It just does not really look the part, but I mean, it is what it is, and I will live with it. Other than that, again, few little things here and there that I'm not happy with, but I'm not going to go into too many details. But overall, it looks great. It's going to look really good sitting on the shelf. I'll probably have it parked beside my 810, kind of keep the ground pounders together on the shelf. So again, pretty happy with how it turned out. It looks great. I am a fan of the weathering, and yeah, it is. To be honest, I think this might be the first F-15 I have ever built. So yeah, there you go. Monograms Pro Modeler F-15E. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.